Welcome to Common Unity. I'm Jason Fox.
And I'm Dr. Gabriel Lewis. And we are bringing the community together with a common unity.
So, welcome back to Common Unity. Today, I'm guilty of this myself, of saying, these young guys have got too much book smarts, they don't have real life experience, what do they know? Well, every now and again you meet a young guy who's fucking got way more life experience than I think even I've got. So I'd like to welcome today James Wallace to the podcast.
Appreciate it.
Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us. For coming. Thanks for having us on our podcast, James.
My pleasure.
So James come up from Christchurch, and we're push-up bros. So I've done more push-ups than him today. He's looking a little bit weak, actually. He's looking a little bit tired. And
Yeah, I've got 140 left to do, so I don't get kicked out.
Yeah. I've only got 20 to do, so we'll punch some out after this podcast, eh? But he's come up. We're going on a car tour in the morning, so we're recording this on the 20th of September, and we're going to go and chase cars around for 6 days. So fucking thanks for coming through to Tauranga, and tell us. You live in Christchurch. You grew up there, went to school there.
Yeah, so born in Christchurch. Parents are from Blenheim. Recently started spending a lot of time in Auckland. We've opened an office up there, and it's a good spot. School there, everything there. Started the business down there. I like Christchurch. I think if something works in Christchurch, it's pretty easily transition to almost any other market. Like, it's a very skeptical, slow market. I've got a lot of good friends who started their businesses down there and then took them other places, and they took off. So
sure. Yep.
You've really got to get the crowd behind you.
It's like, it's a village. It's probably the only way of describing it. It's a reasonably big one, but it's still a village. Yeah. And it's just old school and a little bit slow. And I love that because, like I said, it makes such a good testing space where, and I obviously haven't spoken, and most of the people listening to this won't know who I am, but we're in that digital space, like that new marketing and that kind of thing. And so everyone down there's a little bit slow to adopt that stuff. It's been really cool learning how to educate people about it as well as selling them on it at the same time. And it's probably the only market where you get to do both together that still has like the commercial element, that there's healthy enough budgets and things like that all in one spot.
It's a lot of that old kind of money, but with the old kind of mentality behind it that, we've always done it this way rather 100%. Than let's try something new. Let's get some fresh eyes. So you'd have quite a fresh perspective of things.
I hope so.
Yeah. I hope so too. Well, honestly, if you're growing it, it's working.
Yeah. We challenge, and internally in my business, we challenge ourselves really hard to not follow. That's a big piece of our ethos and the way we think about things, is instead of doing what everyone before us has done or what businesses similar to us that are doing really well are doing, how can we do something that no one's done before but that just makes sense? I think we went through and just recently redid our own website, and the response to that has been really, really good. And the biggest thing we thought about with it was you go to any digital marketing agency's website and there's the same 5 pages. And sure, some of them that are really good web development companies have made it look a little bit prettier than others, and some of them, but the essence of the site itself is
the skeleton's the same.
Yeah. And so we're what does anyone actually care about if they're looking for a digital marketing agency? And we're well, first of all, they want to know what you're talking about. So you go to our site, and the first thing that happens when you scroll down is how much money we've spent on ads, how many leads we've generated, how many people have seen our ads, how many times people have seen our ads. It's because those numbers are big, and that's a really good selling point. And then we're what else do they want to know? And they want to know who we are, they want to know what we do, they want to know how we help, they want to know about our no profit, no fees offer, and they want to know why we have no contracts with any of our clients. And so we're let's not do an about us page, let's not do an our story, let's not do a services, let's just make those the pages on the site. And so that's
you're doing the non-sell. So you're basically saying, hey, this is my service. This is what we offer. If you'd like to be a part of it, thank you.
Yeah. We're actually quite like that.
Yeah.
We're really lucky. We bring on a lot of new business.
Yep.
And so because of that, we don't have to I think a lot of people, we compromise and we'll negotiate with people that we really want to work with. That's the only case. And if anyone that works with us has had me accept an offer that they've come back with or something, no, it was because we were like, we fucking like these guys. Like, we think that we're going to crank with this and this is going to be a dream client. 90% of people were just like, nah, we're good, thank you. We're like, because of that flow of customers in, we probably signed 4 to 7 new people a week at the moment, and it's been like that for the last couple of months, and it's been growing uphill. And so with that, you just don't have to like I said, that non-sale, that piece is a big part of our sort of process. In saying that, we've got some really good salespeople that get a lot of deals done. So I don't know how they do that, but my motto and my role in it's always just, yeah, man, like, you want to do some work with us, we'd love to.
Obviously the results speak for themselves as well.
Yeah,
So,
this year's been a year, which has been cool. I think it's definitely starting. It's getting that feel about it, and this stuff takes time. We've just ticked over 4 years of being in business, and first 2 you have no clue what you're doing because they almost don't count. It's like -2, -1, and then 0 at the end of the second year. And so it's really been, last year was a good year for us. It was really good. This year's been that, like, everything's
clicking,
gone. Yeah. I've got 14 staff now, went from about 4 or 5 at the start of the year. Revenue's up over 300%. Like, it's all moving now. And we've finally just got through the cash flow pain that comes with that. That was a whole nother tier, but yeah, we're starting to get a bit of momentum and things are starting to do what they're supposed to do, which is cool.
Excellent. So pre-4 years ago, what kind of made you want to get into the role that you're currently in?
It's a really good question. So I always wanted to be in sales. The timing for this is really good. I was just saying to Jason before, I've just gone through this whole life story thing with, I'm looking at doing some work around my personal brand, and they sat me down for like 4 hours over 2 days, just drilled me on who I am and what I'm about and the whole. So basically what it was, this is all real fresh in my mind, is the only reason I said that, is I left school early, and all throughout school people have been like, you got the gift of the gab. I've worked pretty consistently since I was about 12 with a paper round, and then that rolled into working at a bike shop, then a kitchen hand, wound up being a sous chef, ended up working in front of house. That front of house thing was when I got the whole, like, the way you engage with people has an impact on their experience and you have control over that. That led me down this path of being obsessed with like influence and sales, and that then rolled into the marketing thing. Yep. And so when I left school, I went and studied personal training. I used to be really into the gym, and I realized that wasn't an industry that I wanted to work in. Once I saw it and the way that it actually operated from there, I was like, that's not for me. So I was like, what's the thing that I care about most? And that was sales. I went and I applied for a whole bunch of jobs, pretty much every job that had sales in the headline in Christchurch. I got through to the final stage with a car company and with MediWorks in Christchurch, selling vehicles and selling radio advertising. Both of them came back to me, and I was like 18, wearing my dad's suits to interviews. Like, I don't blame either of them for not hiring me at the time. Like, I was not a good candidate. I had no experience. I didn't know anything, just kind of personable. And they're like, you need some experience. So the only job that I could get was door-to-door sales. That was the only place that would take you on with scratch. And so a good friend of mine had a door-to-door sales team, and he was like, come in for a trial day, whatever it was. Went in for that, and I wound up doing door-to-door for a year. And that was where I got I've quite an analytical brain, and that was where I got an understanding for the numbers of sales,
how you approach different things, what worked, what didn't work.
Yeah, you just learn a heap about people when it's 7:30 at night, it's dark, it's raining, they've got their baby in one hand, they're reading you out their credit card number with their other hand, like kitchens, there's dinner on the stove. Like, you learn about people in those situations, and you become more aware of the way that they're engaging, and how when you say this, it causes X, and when you do this, it causes Y, and that sort of thing. And so that door-to-door sales job, I wound up going back to MediWorks after doing that for a year, and they were like, yep, you can come on board and sell radio advertising for us, because of that experience that I gained, which was awesome. And so that's kind of where that marketing piece of it was sparked, as I was like, oh, so if you put this in a radio ad, it works, but if you put this in a radio ad, it doesn't work, but we're buying the same radio ad at the same price, so we should probably run the one that works, not the one that doesn't. That kind of became the start of that marketing, becoming like this, having the same feeling about that as I do about sales. Wound up working for an agency that didn't work out, but I left. I didn't actually know what I was going to do when I left the agency. It wasn't the right fit for me. And after that, a friend of mine, a good friend who me and Jason both know, Michael, was like, you need to go and meet my banker. He got me enough money for a laptop and a few weeks rent, and then I just went off and decided to do my own thing. 4 years ago. But that's sort of the waffle.
So about 21 years old, you decide, fuck it, I'm going to start my own business.
Yeah.
Legend.
Yeah. It's pretty scary.
Any big step is scary. So leading up to that scary step, what kind of, obviously you had some self-belief with the business and everything you've done.
I don't. This is something that we just explored that I find really funny. I actually don't believe in myself in an alarming amount, and everyone always goes like, you must be so confident. I suppose I probably have quite like a confident feel when you talk about me, and I'm not confident. I have a lack of fear though, and it's how I wound up crashing my bike. I crashed my bike this year and broke 6 ribs, ruptured my spleen, collapsed left lung, week in hospital, 2 operations. But it's because I have like a lack of fear of the repercussions of my actions, which I think I'll develop more as I get a little bit older. But
it's obviously a huge strength, because that self-belief and the lack of fear kind of go hand in hand.
And so they're kind of, it's not that either of them are overly strong, but both of them together gives me a pretty good feel to go for stuff. It's the same as this year when I was like, sweet, selling my cars, I'm going to fucking go for it. That's it. I was like, this is the year. That, to be fair, maybe had a bit of inspiration from fear, because I was like, I think the market's about to get really tough. And if there's one person left standing at the end of the shit, it's going to be me. I'm going to be all in and I'm going to go for it. And so that kind of, maybe I was like, there's self-belief there, because I'm like, I know if I put 100% into this, we will be the one that's left there if everyone else goes. But also there's kind of in the same breath, I was like, but we would be anyway, and that's that lack of fear thing, I suppose. So they work together. But 21, my dad, whether he'd admit it now or not, actually he would admit it now, he's pretty good at it. Didn't think I should. He was like, no, my mum's my biggest advocate. She was like, you'll smash anything you could do. So I kind of have both of them on my shoulder, which is always a good thing too. One kind of keeps me in check. One of them makes me think I can do anything. And then, I just sort of went for it.
You're surrounded by some incredible guys down in Christchurch too, aren't you?
Especially now, and that's probably when I think about that, like almost when the company started 2 years ago, wiping those first 2 years, the difference there has been the people that I'm surrounded by. My group is unmatched. I don't think that anyone has a better group of friends, and I now have it across Auckland as well. Like just successful people who just want to see everyone around them do well. People don't get that. Everyone else that they've got, like there's that bit of jealousy, or there's that bit where everyone just wants each other to kill it. Yeah.
Well, a big part of this podcast is stamping out the tall poppy syndrome in NZ, and it's everywhere, right? You pop your head up, someone wants to cut it off. You're not. I was actually talking to someone yesterday. He came and saw me. He's looking at starting a business, and he said he was driving along and he saw an 812 parked in the middle of, I think it was around Awakuni. I forget where it was, but it was on the middle of the road. And he messages mates like, "Fuck, you wouldn't believe this." Like, 812 just on the side of the road. I wonder what's happened. And the guy's response straight away was like, "Oh, fucking deserves them right, pricks." You know?
Yeah.
Why are they pricks? Because they've worked their ass off to own something nice. And this is what we're trying to break here, is actually everyone I know who's successful wants to give you their knowledge. They want to see you succeed. They're not trying to bring anyone down.
Yeah. In the same breath, and this is probably some of the, I hear things sometimes, and it's like they create a new path in your brain, and you're like, fuck, I'd never thought about life like that before, but this just makes so much sense. I can now never think, I can never think about things how I used to. And Matt Horncastle, who we both know, I remember, and this was years ago, it would probably be at least 2. We used to catch up every week. We've done the Williams marketing for a long time, and we're still pretty involved in what they've got going on. And he was just like, not enough people hate us. And I was like, and he's always been a person that's had a really polarizing perspective to things to me, and I've learned so much of him. He's like, not enough people like us. I don't think we're doing enough. I think I need more people to hate me. And I was like, who fucking thinks like that? Like what? But he's right.
But
he
is right, because it comes with the territory. Anytime you're doing something right or correct, some people will be like, depending on what perspective they're at, they'll be like, well, that doesn't sit right with me.
I love it. Yeah. We were talking before about how I've got my truck in Christchurch and I've just bought a Porsche. I fucking love that no one lets me merge in my Porsche, you know, and the ute, they just get out of the way. And the Porsche, no chance. No one's letting you, like, the people treat you like shit when you drive that car around. That, like, it just comes with it. Yeah. Do I think it's wrong? 100%. But I think the other thing that needs to happen, and the best way that you kind of diffuse it and pull that away, is start treating it like it's a good thing. Start thinking about, like if someone's like, you're a prick because you're doing well, it's like, well, like, you know, 14 people are allowing me to pay their rent, right? Like it's hard for me to hear you. I've got other things that I've got that are more important right now than whether you think I'm a good person or not. I know who I am. I know what I do. I don't tell anyone about a lot of the things that we've got going on purpose because it's not for anyone else. It's for us. But you need to embrace it as well. Like when you lean into it and when it gets you going and when it makes you better, all of a sudden they're not going to want to hate on you anymore because they're helping. And that's the one thing that I don't think they want to do.
When you're growing, you want other people around you to grow. Mm-hmm. It's that simple. If you're being stagnant, you want to pull somebody down. And Snoop Dogg uses the ladder theme of years and years and years ago, before posting this kind of stuff on Instagram was a thing. I recorded a video on my Instagram, and it was with regards to Snoop Dogg and the ladder analogy. If you've got two friends and one person wants to climb the ladder, they've even got to come up to the level, or you've got to stay down at that level before you can move on.
Yeah.
So and if they're not prepared to come up, you've got to leave them behind, and that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, and it's not that it has to be ruthless, right? Like I've got heaps of friends that aren't obsessed with growth and things like that, and I love them. That, you know, like I adore them. They're great people to be around. Any chance I ever be with them over the time of my life, it's just they're not the people that I'm seeing all the time. And that's the thing. And like there's, and I'm pretty sure it's to the point. I can't remember where I read this, but you can tally up the net worth of the 5 people you spend the most time with and average it out into within 10%, that will be your net worth. And so when you think about that, you go, fuck, like I've got to be conscious of the people that I'm spending time with. Obviously there's non-negotiables like your partner or whatever they're going to be in there. Make sure that whoever else is in there is good. The level that we've grown due to almost entirely the people that I'm around is ludicrous, and the opportunities and just the things you learn and stuff like that. It's easy to be like, I own the company by myself and I built this and blah, 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 but I never say that because it's not true.
Oh, it never is. It's always a team. Like I'm nothing without all my clients, and my clients naturally grow my business, and we're 100% word of mouth practice, and we don't advertise because my advertising are my clients.
Yeah.
You know,
it's the work you've done previously.
Yeah.
And I'd actually say that your partner needs to be one of those 7 people. Because if you're not pulling in the same direction in a relationship, you're pulling apart. 100%. And that I just finished that book I mentioned from Mark Manson. What did I say it was? Can't think of the name.
Yeah.
But that book was open counselling sessions. Mm-hmm. And fuck, it's interesting. Because you listen to all this stuff, and for me, who's got a few more years on you, and has been probably through a few more possibly relationships. When you start looking back, in some of the counselling sessions, you're like, oh, that was probably me back in 2009 or something. That was probably me in 2012. And you start looking at these things. It's interesting. Yeah. But it's cool now to be in that position where I'm like, oh, that's stupid, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm like, that's incredible. I'm growing from this as I listen to it, and now I'm not going to make those mistakes next week.
Yeah.
And that's the same as the people you hang around. You learn, you're learning from their mistakes straight away.
Yeah. Look, that's something that I, to be fair, like I can't really give any advice on. I haven't figured it out when it comes to the partner thing yet. And seeing someone at the moment is great. Hopefully it will be that thing that I figure it out with. But like, I'm definitely not. You two both are the people to talk to with expertise on that, right? Like you're both, yeah.
But to be honest, in order to find the right person, you work on yourself. It's that simple. You don't attract the right person by not working on yourself, and naturally the right person will gravitate towards it. So you don't work on finding the right person.
Yeah.
You're just working on yourself, and straight away everything works itself out.
Agreed, yeah. And it's not something that I've even been concerned about. at any point either. I'm like, I'm focused on one thing pretty much, and that's it.
Oh, it's perfect. You're young. You've got the world's your oyster.
Yeah.
You know, just work on what you're doing your trade.
The rest
Perfect.
will come, yeah.
Rest will come.
When you need that conversation, I'm here for you.
Daddy Jace. Oh, excellent. So what kind of, did you do any sports or anything that got you into like the personal training side initially, or wanting to look into doing that?
Nah, I was just a real skinny kid. Mm-hmm. That's all it was. So and I'm not short, I'm not tall either. I'm 6 foot, and when I was about the same height when I was 15 or 16 or whatever it was. At 15, I started training because I got my dad to write a note to the gym letting me start training before I turned 16. And I put on 18 kilos in a year, and all of a sudden kind of found this, like, you know, as a guy, and I hate to do this whole masculinity thing because it's very loved and hated at the moment, but like, you want to feel strong and you want to feel like you can compete and you want all these things.
I'm going to have my 2 cents, okay? It's better to be, and I've seen this so much, but it's better to be a warrior in a garden and have all your kind of things in check than a gardener in a war.
It's my favourite saying. I have a samurai in a garden tattooed on the side of my leg for it. It's I completely agree. But Jordan Peterson says you should become a monster and then learn how to control it rather than not. And I completely agree. And so that was kind of my first, not that I ever was, especially not at that age, but like I all of a sudden was like, fuck, I've got this new confidence, right? Like I like talking to girls and I feel better about myself. And I'm like, I got some abs. I got, it was good for me.
Well, think about it. A healthy male and a masculine male, whatever their definition of masculine, is a safe male.
Yeah.
Okay? They're not trying to create any issues or anything like that. An unhealthy male is one that's not in that space.
Yeah.
In the frame of mind. Like,
I agree. And look, this and I don't know about this podcast and the theme of it and where you want to go, but you can go down this big, like...
It's just open conversations.
Great. So you can go down this massive dive with this Andrew Tate thing and all the stuff that's gone there. And
I'm a huge fan of Andrew Tate. If you actually listen to the 4.5 podcast of Andrew Tate...
5 hours I listened to it. Yeah.
Everybody is a fan of Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Because he's not saying anything that's against feminists. It's actually about the complete opposite. If you actually give anybody a listen. I would actually challenge anybody that actually had an issue with anybody, really listen to them.
Yeah. The other thing that's lost from the world at the moment is this ability to agree with someone when they say one thing and disagree with them when they say something else. And when you look at content, and it's amazing to watch the way that it works now, is it's like, one time this person said this in this 10-second snippet of 46 hours of content that's been posted online. If you agree with anything that he says, you are now X. And it's like, that is fucking ludicrous when you explain it like that, but it's just the way that things are now.
Well, it's the cancel culture. So when you think about it, okay, if you give something a label and if you don't naturally agree with it, you're actually at a subconscious level disassociating them as a human.
Yeah.
Okay. Instead of being there and respecting people for whatever their perspective is, which healthy males and females do, they respect everybody's perspective.
Yeah.
Even if it's not on the same page, you need to actually understand that people have different histories, different experiences leading up to that point, that you need to respect people. And that's what is lacking. Doesn't matter which side of the fence that people are on, everybody's got this philosophy at the moment. If you're not with me, you're against me, when it's not the case.
And also putting it in the only way to say it is it's just people that have a voice that shouldn't. That's just the way that it is with the way that technology is now. And I don't mean that critically, and I don't mean that in a way where I'm like, I don't care about what these people have to say or anything. I'm just saying, like, you were never heard before, like the people that sit in the middle and don't do a whole lot, they weren't heard, not like, aside from within their small group of people. Now all of those people get to band together and create this big voice. And I think that 99.9% of what that's created is really good. I just think that anything that happens like that is going to also have an offshoot that's bad that comes with it. I think that there's something alarming around, and I'm not one of those freedom of speech guys or anything like that, but there's something alarming around someone who doesn't really do anything wrong being removed off every social media platform at once. I think all of that stuff stands out to me. I called that he was going to own a really reasonably large percentage of a competitive social media company, which he does. It's called Rumble, and that he was going to use this as an excuse to go over there and then all of a sudden reappear on social media and start promoting that, which we're starting to see happen now. Yep. It's a really smart business play. I think that what sucks about this whole thing is people don't understand that although some of his previous business stuff is really questionably ethical, he is really good at making money. And I think for a lot of people, that's something that they're missing. My model's always been, I'm going to make money slow and ethically, and I'm going to do the right thing by people along the way. Anyone who's of the same mindset, I completely agree. I love it. If you're not, that's none of my fucking business. And however you want to do things, provided you're not hurting people, you're not doing like that's your call. You want to go fast. Everyone says all these online courses for sale that you can work from Bali and make 200 grand a year or whatever it is. That's now this separate thing. He's got his Hustlers University. He's got all these things. I do think his base intent is really good. I think he's trying to make men better. I think that we are actually, and there's a lot of stuff that backs up. It's interesting listening to like Jordan Peterson's and people like this talk about this. We're played off like we've got a massive advantage. I don't think we do. I think that when you look at stuff really holistically and open-mindedly, it's even if not slightly favoured in the other direction. I think that it's good that someone talks about that. Does some of the stuff he says go a little bit far? In my opinion, yeah. But if you agree with it, that's cool. I don't care. Like it's, that's none of my business. But I just agree with 95% of what he says, and 5 of it I go, and I feel like that's an okay opinion to have. And it's just crazy that if you do agree with a lot of the stuff he says, all of a sudden you're some sexist, misogynistic, fucking whatever.
But it's not actually sexist. So I listened to the 5-hour podcast with Patrick Bet David, and the only thing I probably disagreed with was how hard he was going in on Jake and Logan Paul. And so they've got their own little internet beef thing going on. And he kept going back saying they're boys, they're this, they're that, they're nothing. I was like, okay, well, just let that go. Let's move on to the rest of the content and have that conversation. But he kept coming back to that. Outside of that, it was pretty good. And when you talked about the money thing, he's like, I just want freedom of life. I don't want to be told what to do. He said, so I have 2 options. I've got to have so much money that I can do whatever I want, or I want to have no fucking money so no one can tell me what to do.
Yes.
Because if I'm walking down the street and I'm drinking a beer, or, this is my interpretation on what he said. If he's walking down the street having a beer or something and he owns nothing and the cop comes over and says, hey, get rid of that, it doesn't affect your life. Yep. And I see it right out here in front of our doors. If I walk down the street with a Heineken at 3 o'clock, I'm going to get stopped by a police officer dressed how I am usually, and they'd say, what the hell do you think you're doing, mate? This is an alcohol-free area. However, I've got homeless people down here right in front of my office having absolute lair-ups, drinking piss, doing the hucker in like the middle of the day, and no one comes and says a thing to them because what can they do? They can't take anything from them. They've got nothing. So he was on either side of that is freedom. You can do whatever you want here and you can do whatever you want here. You just got to do a hell of a lot of work to get to the other end of it.
And that you can't take away from him, right? Like what him and Tristan have built is pretty ridiculous. And
I often agree with you though. The cancel culture where if you're not agreeing 100% with regards to a thing, and to be honest, it's important to have opposing sides of an argument for people. It allows growth, it allows development. Like if I've got friends that are purely just agreeing 100% with what I'm saying, I need new friends.
Yeah, can't grow.
I love that about my group, actually. I was seeing that the other day. I went for breakfast with someone and he showed me this email that he'd sent to a client that was being really difficult. And I was like, bro, you're too good to be writing stupid fucking emails like that. I was like, look at this shit. I was like, it's like 17 paragraphs, screenshots. I was like, come on, man, you run a fucking business. I was like, don't even reply. Just be like, see you later. It's like, that's, and so I have a group that's like that. Like we can call, and he's done the same thing to me. Like I've said things and he's just like, no, ridiculous. Like that, because both of us have, because you need a lot of humility. This is the thing, is to be able to have conversations like that with people, you need to actually be able to be like, fuck, he got me. You know, like that's right. I actually, he's onto something there. I shouldn't be writing these emails. Or the one that he got, it's a long story. But like, you got to be able to sit there and be like, you're actually correct. I thought I was doing the right thing. I'm not doing the right thing. I'm now going to go do the right thing. Then it's valuable.
Like initially, the ego will want to reply, and you'll be like, "Oh,
okay,
I'm gonna well." And then you're like, actually, do I really need to?
Well, hate's always met best with love, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I've had someone abuse one of our friends, not me directly. I've actually, touched wood, had nothing directly at me yet, but I don't really have much of a following. But someone was giving me shit because of one of our friends. And I just went back to him and said, hey, who I'm friends with, who I'm married to, who I have dinner with, who my clients are, any of that stuff should have no impact on the content that I produce and how you feel about what I put out there. And they just diffused and they went, oh, yep, fair enough. They had nothing to come back at, you know, but they were trying to say, pretty much the words they came at me with, I used to really like your content until I saw that you were friends with and listened to this. I was like, the fuck has that got to do with anything that I produce?
But
also, they're sitting at home.
You need to worry about those people.
Yeah.
This is the thing that I've kind of like, as my group's gotten smaller. No, like, and also like, not like they're probably all good internally. Like, I'm really happy for them. This is the biggest thing is like for them saying that to you makes them feel good. And whether it's short-sighted, whether it's kind of loser, all is irrelevant because provided it doesn't affect you too much because you're solid and they feel good about it, fuck, it's kind of a win-win. Do your thing. If someone looks at me and he's like, fuck, he turned into a dick. Okay. Like that's, you know, and if that makes you feel better about the fact that you haven't done the things that you want to do, I'm really happy for you. And I say that seriously. Like, I'm like, you're right. And also, like, I had to trade a heap of shit for this. You didn't have to trade any of that. You still have all your mates from fucking here that you wish you could still talk to, and you see your family more than I do, and you do. I'm happy for you. This is cool. But I just think, like, and I can guess who it is that was brought up about because I get the same thing too. Yeah. And every time I'm like, once again, first off, ego fires off, and you go, why don't you like them? That's what you want to go for is you're like, and they're like, oh, they do this, they do that. None of it matters. The key is like, okay,
yeah,
I appreciate you, thank you. Like that, like what else do I have to say about this? Cheers.
Well, it's like a basic math. 49% of people on earth hate you, but 51% love you. That's pretty good odds. And imagine if that you had 51% of any market in your business. Fuck, you'd be, you know. But all you're really actually chasing for in your business is probably like 1% market share or 10% market share. Yeah. So you don't have to have all that many people that like you along the way. Yeah. Yeah.
And like be likable and be super respectful and care about people and do the right thing by people. But just like stuff like that, you just don't have to tolerate it.
It's just stuck of it, water off a duck's back. So if you drew inspiration of some people in the world, who would it be?
Great question. The answer depends on the context. Currently, in terms of people putting out content online, Alex Hormozy by a landslide. His audiobook's the best that I've ever read. And I really like content. It's unreal. The way that he produces his reels is a huge inspiration for what we're about to release. James Smith PT also fits in there as well. Does it.
He's the one that swears and calls everyone out for their fake fads and stuff?
He's fucking fantastic. Yeah. He's so good.
It's
and the way that he speaks is so candid and he really nails it. So content-wise there, business, to be fair, some of the people that I admire most right now are some of my best friends. I'm really lucky. Like Matt and Blair are a huge piece of that because of the stuff that I know about the way that they run their business that no one knows.
It's pretty inspirational.
Fuck, like that. It just doesn't make, like, when you dig in deep, right? Yeah. And so, and because they're also really, like, they were how we created our salesperson role was off the back of a phone call with Matt. Like, they're really helpful, but seeing the systems and the things that they've got in place with their company right now, it's cool. It's no mistake that they're the size that they are. Obviously, you've got VaynerMedia and Gary Vee as well. That's an enormous business. It's the best in our industry at what they do. There's King Kong and Oz, Sabri Subi, all people that we watch and we look at what they're doing. Those are probably the main ones. But Yeah, I'm quite lucky that some of them I'm quite connected with. I think that's a good thing to have. And they also, I don't know how, but feel like there's mutual value exchange there because they're around people that have got young energy and excited and want to go uphill. And I have that with a lot of my friends that have big businesses, is they're really pumped about me, and a good friend of mine, Matt Perks, who are in these like groups now, and we're the hustle, grind, climb uphill thing. People that are sort of at the top of the hill quite like being around that because they remember that because they did it themselves. So yeah.
And it's also invigorating for them too. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that kind of spark, and I had that feeling. And you know what? It's I've got like somebody who's much wiser in business. Like occasionally, I might call them up once a year. Hey, what's your thoughts or advice on this?
Yeah,
completely unrelated to what I do. No idea with regards to my realm or thing, but sometimes it's nice just a different, fresh perspective who knows business and life in general. It's clever. It's smart.
The more people you have like that, the better you'll be as well, because then you get all the opinions. You're like, we recently had someone look at buying half our business, and that was a big thing for that. So I was like, right, I'm going to go talk to 20 people, and to have 20 people, first off, fuck, I'm lucky. Like, but they're seriously there, and like, and I got all sorts of opinions back. That allowed us to be like, right, these are the things that we will allow, and if those things happen, we're in, and if those things don't happen, we're out. We didn't get there, so we were out, but we were able to create like a cold, hard line in the sand based off all of these opinions that we had that made what would be an extremely complex and potentially life-changing decision simple. Yeah, easy. And then it was really funny because a few people afterwards were kind of like, oh, I'm pleased that didn't happen. And, you know, like we got that, but like the advice at the front was really good.
Was that a bit of a push to actually expand? Was that when you started taking on more stuff, or was that throughout the process?
Nah, do you know what it did? It was the best thing in the world for me because it made me take a step back and look at my business really subjectively from the outside in and be like, fuck, we suck. And
well, it makes you realise, I was just about to say, where your holes are.
They're everywhere. But also in the 3 months since that process is gone, they are plugged up.
Stop the gaps.
Like, and this is the thing, is like we're rolling through. We've had our cash flows beating me up this year. That essentially to explain it, like our business model is, let's say you come to me and you're like, I want more clients for my chiropractic clinic. You go, an average client's worth $2,000 a year to me. We go, right, well, we're going to build a system where you can buy those clients for $500. And we're like, you, in order to do that, need to spend $10,000 a month with me. And you go, right, well, as long as I'm signing 20 clients a month, that stacks up because then I'm producing, you know, however much it is, like 40 grand a year in revenue, and that will all balance out. Life will be good. For that first month, well, this is where it was when this initial thing happened, right? For that first month, we would spend $5,000 of that $10,000 on advertising. So I'd personally pay that $5,000. And at the end of that month, you get a bill due 20th of the month following. That bill includes the $5,000 that we spend on advertising plus the $5,000 that you pay us for our time, right? 20 more days go by. So by the time those 20 more days have gone by, I've spent another $3,500 on ads. So now I'm $8,500 in. If one of my salespeople signed you and I paid 20% commission, I've also paid 2 months commission. So I'm another $2,000 in. So now I'm $10,500 in. Then you pay me 10 grand. I'm actually still back. And then we go through another month. I spend another $5,000 now. So it took 3 or 4 months for us to actually hit a point of being cash flow positive with our clients. That's fine. I'm not worried about that at all. But the problem is then you go sign 4 clients a week for 3 months. And all of a sudden we slam all these people through. Money just starts disappearing. Like I spent $3,000 a day on Facebook ads off my credit card. It's got a $1,500 limit on it because this grew so quickly. We have no financial things, and like we have no debt. We have no, like, none of that stuff exists in the business. And so I just paid all this shit through this. And so we just got the shit kicked out of us. Then someone looked at buying us. And so they looked at buying us because these guys are growing really well. But then you look at us and our financials didn't stack up with where we were at. It's like we went from doing $80,000 a month to $250,000 a month why are they making the same or less money? But it's because of all this paying stuff in the future. And so I employed an accounts lady, sat down, we completely ripped that system to pieces, put it back together. The only reason I'm real kosher with sharing this is because I've just written a LinkedIn post that tells everything that I did and how it works. So I'm like, I'll go as deep as you want to go. We now have monthly invoicing set up with Facebook. So the end of the month we get, or within 5 days from the end of the month, we get an invoice with 30-day terms for all of our clients' ad spend. So now when people pay us, we actually have an extra 10 days to pay Facebook after they pay us. Yep. Plus we charge our clients their first invoice up front. So you come to me, now you get a 10 grand bill the second you sign the thing. It then rolls over to 20th of the month following from there. But like that fixed our cash flow. We did all these things. All of a sudden the business will just blow up. We had a month where we went backwards.
Because you're not actually worrying about the cash flow, because then you're actually worried about growth.
Yeah, so we can sign 100 clients tomorrow. I'll be like, sick, let's do it. Yeah. Like and so we just fixed it. This was the thing. And so,
whereas you would have been Achilles healing yourself because you couldn't actually grow to that rate.
Without taking that step back, I probably wouldn't have realized that the email the guy sent me was the business is running on empty. And like I'm as open as they come. Mm-hmm. Fuck, it was, right? Like, and it wasn't running on empty to the point where it was dangerous. But if you look at a business that's turning over 250, 300 grand a month, they're supposed to have some money sitting there, right? Like that you can't just, like you can't have that run down
week to week still.
No, and you can't. But the thing is, you have no choice, right? Like when we saved up money, I sold my car. We were ready to go with the growth. You just don't know how big it's going to go and how fast it's going to happen. You can't estimate 100 grand to 300 in that time, 80 grand to 300 in that time.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah, and then like all these extra expenses, like all these wages, all these things like that. We went backwards 60 grand in a month. We signed a whole bunch of clients, did all the things, but our net cash in and out was minus $60,000 in 30 days. So I hemorrhaged 2 grand a day for a month. Just woke up, first thought every day was just fuck. Like that was it for a whole month, just going through just pain. We'll go forwards probably double that this month now that we've got our systems sorted. So you just whether the business sold or not, which would have been cool and it was big money and all these things are really exciting about it, is irrelevant, because the biggest lesson we learned is we're like, I'm never running this shit on empty again. Because
it's a huge blessing in disguise.
Yeah. And so then we figured out how to get it out of empty.
And possibly the reasons you may have thought I would sell it is actually you've just solved, and now you're like, I wouldn't sell this business tomorrow. Why would I sell this?
I was stoked to have a boatload of cash in our account. Yeah. That was what I wanted. I didn't want the money for myself. I wasn't going to go do dumb shit with it. Yeah. I was just like, how good would it be to be able to do that? I mean, we can only grow so fast because a big piece of our growth is sales people and account managers, and I've still got to train them. I haven't quite got a sales manager. And so it would have given us facilities for growth, but we still couldn't have grown at too rapid of a rate. I also, and my friends know my feeling about this, I hate that startup ecosystem of round one of fundraising for this idea. I got $3 million, and round two I got 12. So now I've got $15 million and I've never got a customer. I think the business is customers. Yeah, I think, and I'm a little bit old. This is, I think, our thing in the market is we're quite a traditional business in a really new modern space. Yep. That's, it has that sort of feel about it, and it does that kind of thing. I think that businesses, you should start with zip, find customers. When you find those customers, grow that customer base to a point where you can put people in, do that sort of thing.
And that's where I'm going at the moment with what I'm doing, which will be a podcast at some point because I don't want to give too much away just yet. But I think any consultancy work should be paid up front. So what you're doing is a form of consultancy, right? It needs to be paid up front, because you can bring someone a whole lot of value to their business and do something incredible for them, and then they decide not to pay you. It's a bit fucked.
We get that. And we're going through it at the moment, actually, to be honest. We're really lucky. This is the first time that I've gone through this, because I've had it a number of times over the 4 years, as you can imagine. Hundreds of clients. We've worked with hundreds of businesses, and we've managed north of $8 million worth of ad spend. There's been a lot happen. This is the first time we've done it where I just haven't cared, and it's been amazing. It's like that. The one thing that I'll say with any business that's more important than everything else is having that flow of new opportunity in, because then that person turns around and goes, I don't want to pay my bill, and you just go, whatever. Like, you know, like, are we going to chase after them? Is my accounts lady on it? Yeah, sure. Like, we're not just going to walk away from it. But for me, mentally, it's not something that's bogging me down for weeks and weeks and weeks now. It's something that we roll through.
Well, it's because you've got enough clients, right? If you've got one client and you lose that one client, you've lost 100% of your income.
Yeah.
Got 100 clients and you lose one, you've lost 1% of your income. Is it going to break your business? No. Does it suck? Yes. But you carry on. You live another day.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Just roll the punches with stuff like that. But yeah, for sure.
It's exciting. So you were in Christchurch for quite a while there, and then you've just opened an office in Auckland.
Yeah, February this year. Yeah, we started up in Auckland.
So what made the decision to move to Auckland to grow it?
One of my goals is I want the biggest agency in New Zealand. So me and my friends often talk about going to Aussie and doing stuff over there, and I really like it. My internal rule that I've got is I will not leave New Zealand until it's mine. That's it. And you talked about that 51% of market. Like, it is mine when we go. And so with that, we have to have boots on the ground. I've said about us being like a little bit more traditional and stuff like that. Like, I like face-to-face. I want my salespeople and my consultants to be face-to-face with their clients. I want them to have personal relationships with it. We need an office. We probably need 5 across New Zealand to get to that point, I think. And so we have them mapped out. We have start dates for each office mapped out. We know where we're going when we're going there. We know what we need in each office. We know those things.
Would have that framework from Christchurch and that kind of old history and knowing where
it's
it
copy
grows.
paste, isn't it?
And we're so lucky because of our style of work, the implementation can actually all be done from there. So I got a massive office in Christchurch and I love it. We did it this year. We moved in June, July. I got 240 squares. We went all out, found basically just a big room with white brick walls and wood floors, and just did everything from scratch. Like, put all the meeting rooms in. It's our space. I can put 26 people in there if I need to. That will always be where all the work comes out of, because if we need another ads person, I just put them in that office. The ads team looks after it. Rodrigo, the head of my ads team, fantastic. That team, awesome. Same with design that's there. Same with so that office will be where the work comes out of. We'll just go to Auckland and we'll put 5 to 8 salespeople in Auckland. They can go out and do all the client service stuff and then just bring the implementation in that will happen out of Christchurch. We have no limitations around that. The client still gets that experience of having the face-to-face relationship with someone, and they have the best team in New Zealand at actually doing the work, all sitting in this massive room together in Christchurch, planning things. My ads team's 1 meter away from my design team. Like, it just creates this really cool synergy, and it's better. Like, our Christchurch office is cheap for the space we get. It works really well.
I've just realised and clicked. What's the name of your business?
Digital Simple.
Digital Simple. He said. Yeah.
Hey, awesome.
It's interesting what you just touched on there, like all your team in Christchurch, and this is something, if we're going to keep harping on about Matthew and Blair, that they talk about. We've just come out of COVID. Everyone wants to work from home now. And they're like, no, fuck that. If you want to work for us, you work here. If you need to work from home, that's fine. Go get a job somewhere else, because that doesn't fit our business model.
Yeah.
How have you found? Are you on that same boat? Like, you notice you get the best out of people when they show up to work?
We're old school. This is the thing. Like I said, same with doing the office in Auckland so that people can be face to face. Work is for work. Home is for home. And I've just always been like that. Mm-hmm.
I think it's actually important for the home life too.
I also, that's what I was going to say is I think that people pitch the working from home thing like a mental health balancing thing. I think it's better for people going to work, and my staff all know as well, like, once you're gone, you don't owe me anything. Like, you turn up in the morning, you do your thing, you leave. I'm sure I've got a heap of staff that will go above and beyond, and those are the people that are growing really quickly through my company. That's not expected. You won't be held back if you don't. That's not like it's unreasonable. It's the same as like through COVID when people dropped all their staff down to like 80% of their wage or just paid them the wage subsidy or whatever. It's fucking garbage. Like if let's say your business doubles next month and you've got 10 staff, you don't pay all of them twice as much. So when your business halves, they're not supposed to feel it. That's the thing with being an employee is you're protected. You don't take on the risk. The business owner has the risk. You're supposed to eat that. And so this is what I try to pitch to them. And they know that as I've gotten busier and things like that, I've had people that have taken on some of that responsibility. Deeply thankful for those people. They're growing. They also know that they've got really bright futures ahead of them and they've been able to grow really quickly because they've stepped up to that mark. But we go to work unless we can't. That's pretty much it. Like if someone's super sick, they might not come in. But the funny thing with my staff is they'll be fucking hammered. Still, like I can get a couple hours in though. If someone's out of the city for a reason, they might still log in. I got someone going away on holiday. He's on annual leave tomorrow. He's like, like I got 6 hours layover in Koru. Like I'm happy to do some work. Don't stress about it. Like that environment will come when you build the culture. Yes. The only way you build the culture is when everyone's sitting in a room together, getting to know each other. You can't do like beers on fucking Zoom on a Friday afternoon. Like that's not what this is about.
You don't build relationships online.
I agree.
Not ones that you're gonna actually. I'm genuinely really concerned about that person. I don't want to let them down. And this is not the boss. This is actually my work buddy that they rely on this. So you're all growing together. Yeah. My staff are amazing. Like my staff do the same thing as well between themselves. And I'm like, go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you want. It's like, why are you here?
Yeah.
You want to be at that point with them. And my guys, the best thing about them as well is they do it without seeking recognition. That's what blows my mind. It's like, I don't actually know how much they do because I don't notice. I don't, and I'm not, because I am actually not forcing them to do it or any, like, I'm like, do your thing. Like if, but you can see. And those are the people that now lead the teams.
Yep.
Yeah.
The sales coming in, the billings going out, all the rest of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's important too, like you're saying, that over a Zoom screen, this conversation we're having right here, you can feel each other's energy. You get that energy.
Yeah.
You never get that over the screen.
Yeah.
So having that livelihood, that something to come into, fuck, what a meaning.
Yeah. Like I know we've got to do some Zoom podcasts in the future. It's going to be a different dynamic in itself. Not saying that they're going to be any less content, but it's just not going to get the same kind of.
We haven't rushed to do them yet, have we?
No,
they're people we really want on the podcast, but we're like, fuck, are you just going to be here in like a couple of months? Can we just hold off and we'll just do it in person?
It's just unavoidable.
Yeah,
that's the thing, is to get all of the people that you want on here. You can't.
Yeah, unless it's a business and it wipes its face and we go, okay, we can fly down to Christchurch for 4 days and we're going to go to Auckland and make a tour.
Yeah.
But when it's out of your own back pocket, it doesn't work, does it?
Nah.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. So what's some things for the future personally?
It's a good question. I got 3 more offices.
Good questions tonight.
Yeah. I've got.
I just got my feet on the desk. It's good.
Yeah.
The Gab show.
Yeah, I've got 3 offices to open, all next year.
Yeah.
Auckland needs some love, so that's me at the moment. It's I'm lucky my Christchurch team is solid. It's people always talk about, when you leave an office you want it to maintain itself. It doesn't even just maintain itself, like it gets better. I leave and I come back and they've put new systems in place and they've signed new clients. I've done like that. It's unbelievable what's going on
you've
down
obviously there. Allowed the growth to allow new systems to happen.
Yeah, I just trust them.
That's right.
That's been the biggest thing, and they know I trust them. They know that if they make a call and it's the wrong call, it's okay. And if it's the right call, it's going to be praised, and they just go. And that's the thing. And every now and again, if something's dramatic, they'll be like, is this all right? And every time I've been asked that, I'm like, go for it. So I think that's what's built that. That office, I love Christchurch, right? Like it's just my home, and so I spend as much time down there as I can sort of justify. But Auckland needs love. Hopefully, roll through to Christmas with 5 consultants in Auckland. Yep. I've just sat down and reimagined the way we hire them and really worked on that.
I've got a little bit of a thing that I like to do with the hiring process, and it's super random, but I love it. And I love it so hard. Okay. In the middle of we have a group meeting, okay? So it's Scott, and I've become quite good at hiring. But what I've found that works really, really well for me, it's stupid, may not work for some other people, but I'll be like, if you're a kitchen utensil, what would you be and why? So the reason why I say it is because any pre-planned answer that they've got is gone out the door. I get to see the real them. I get to see, hey, they're either going to be fun or they're going to be like, oh, this guy's a bit stupid. And you get to see the reaction. It's more for me to see the reaction, not about the answer. And then it's the second thing is we've got a very adaptable shift. It's busy. It's not quiet. It's very, very full. So you need to be adaptable. And if you're not even able to adapt to that question and think off your feet, the role's never going to be right for you. So that's why I ask it. I get so much from that question. It's the one question that I find that's so important.
Yeah, I've got one too.
What's yours?
So before I go
actually, no, I better not say it because I want it. Or do you want to say it? Or I don't know.
No, I'll definitely tell. I'll definitely say what it is. But so do you do group interviews as well?
We did. Yeah, we did initial group interview. So we initially did a group interview with everybody so
all the potential hires in one room. Yeah, love it.
Hires and
love it.
Initial at the start, and then we'd also do an exercise with them.
Yeah,
at the start. So people don't realize the order they came to the interview is the order that they get interviewed, and then we do an initial group interview on the aspect. Okay, so we've got this group exercise that we do. We haven't needed to hire for years though, because we've found the right people and we look after them. I would consider my business partner and myself really good bosses. Yeah, we've found the right team. We haven't needed to do this for a long time, but we do a simple exercise: cross the arms over, open everybody up. Okay, so you've got to actually work through and everybody's holding hands, all the potential candidates. And then as an example, they've got to actually go through and work together and uncross themselves so they're actually open in an open square. Now, what that actually shows is how you can tell when people know the answer but won't share. You can tell the ones that are not very good at communicating and too bossy. You learn a lot about people. You can tell, oh, that was really, really beautiful, or the ones that put suggestions in, and you can tell the ones that just stay quiet.
Group interviews change hiring.
Yes.
Because it's not the dynamic between you and them, it's the dynamic between them plus the dynamic between them and you that you get to see. We like for our client consultants, that's how we hire. Like two of my best hires this year have come out of the back of group interviews, actually the same group interview. It's really cool. The question that I ask, which always catches people, is would you rather be known as being really smart but not very nice, or really nice but not very smart? Ask that in a group interview and watch everyone's heads fucking explode in front of each other, because all of them they're trying to figure out
what do you want to know?
And what am I looking for? But they don't know that I don't actually care how they answer the question. All I'm trying to do is figure out how they respond and what they're going to do in front of each other. You see the ones who kind of puff their chest up and they're like, I'd rather be smart because that's what matters. Being nice isn't that important. You see the ones that have been a little bit quiet, be like, truthfully, I'd rather be known as being really nice. And you're like, that person's really empathetic, and you can tell that they've just been quiet because they don't want to take this interview away from anyone else. Like, it just changes the whole dynamic of the space so much.
But the good thing about that question as well, you don't actually need to be smart. You just need to work well with people. You're in sales.
Yeah.
The rest we can teach.
Yeah, and
in a lot of cases,
you can teach anything to anyone, right? Like majority of that, like Lily, who's my 2IC, she's like my right-hand person. She had no marketing experience when she started with us. She came on as an intern. I just liked it because she emailed me and was like, she did an interview with me and she's like, hey, I didn't get this job. What courses can I do to put myself in a position to be able to get this job next time? And I was like, that's fucking sick. I was like, I'll give you an internship if you want one. She's like, great. Like that, that's how we hire people. I'm like, I like that person. They've got God.
Initiative. Yeah.
She's now makes more money than anyone else in my business. She's in charge of, what would really be 13 people down in Christchurch. They all leaned on her for everything. Like that's because I'm like have that fresh perspective on stuff. That's how we hire. That's what I'm like, cool. I like that person. You're good to go. Like I don't like that person. You got a heap of experience. Nah. And so the group interviews, like that's a thing that I push to everyone whenever they ask me about hiring. Because obviously hiring at the moment is quite hard. Like finding people is quite hard. Everyone's like, how do you do it? How do you bring on 10 people in a year? Put 30 people in a room. And we don't ever do 30. We do 10 and we do 10 and we do 10. But like put 10 people in a room, ask 6 questions to each of them, take them away, give them some food, do some things like that, watch them kind of mingle with each other and like who will talk to who. Another thing we do is we make them sweat a little bit in the interview at the start. So we'll like put all of them in a room and then come in 10 minutes late or do something like that and just have them all sit there and watch and see who sits beside each other, who's interacting with who.
You learn so much from a group interview. Even being a burden, like I'll walk into the space, sorry, don't mind me, and I'll make a stupid joke. But what I've already gathered from that whole situation is who's interacting, who's really good in an awkward situation with new people, because you're constantly, the role requires it. Yeah, you learn so much. So it's smart that you're doing it.
Do one, you'll never do another single interview again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. It's epic.
So what do? Do you pick like 3 or 4 people out of that and then bring them into individual?
Yeah, and then I AccuMatch map all of those 3 or 4. So we're really big on behavioural testing. I think that depending on the role, you see attributes. And I've never hired or not hired someone based off a behavioural test. I've really run off my gut. But as a minimum, it will teach me how to train them. And we get a lot out of that. And
we
then
do the behavioural testing as well.
Yeah.
We do that even just to get the
before
group,
the thing.
Yeah, before the group interview, because as a role with what we're requiring, we need a particular personality type to do it. We need a very empathetic front. We need it to kind of so many different aspects, but we find when we were doing it is the best. But in saying that though, the best person I've ever hired was somebody that had an interview years before with which didn't realise who had the interview with me. She came up to me outside of things, introduced herself, said, and she's this highly experienced CA, and just the fact that she did it when it had so many other CAs was going, and I heard she was unhappy in her role. I was like, I'd hire her in a heartbeat. Done.
Yeah.
You know? But
out.
she already got the interview because I've already met her from the past. I was like, she's exactly who I'd hire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to take a piss.
Yeah, I do too. Let's go.
Great.
Done.
We can't all sneak off.
Hey, I still was listening.
Yeah. So no, where were we?
It's a good question.
We're at the toilet break. No, so actually, no. I was going to go back to like the old kind of the old Christchurch story. Okay.
Yeah.
So what school did you go to?
That's a Christchurch question.
I know, that's why I'm asking it. It's a Christchurch. I grew up in Christchurch, so I'm actually asking it. It doesn't matter. This is what the thing is. It doesn't matter at all.
Apparently it does if you're from Christchurch.
If you're from Christchurch, it does. It does, but it doesn't matter.
Nah, it doesn't. I wasn't very good at school. I'll preface this with that. And the school that I went to, if I'd gone really badly, would have been no reflection on that. If I'd gone really well, would have been no reflection on that because I wasn't really there. I started at St. Thomas's, reasonable school, didn't like it very much. When the earthquakes happened, I'm not Catholic. St. Bede's is a Catholic school, which is where I spent most of my time. And so I went to an Anglican primary school. I was 2 people short of getting into St. Bede's because they have to allow a certain percentage of non-Catholic people in. Mm-hmm. I was 2 people off or something ludicrous like that. So after the earthquakes, when a bunch of people left and they were like, we were like, hey, my parents actually, it had nothing to do with me. I was like, I'm not fucking leaving St. Thomas's because you can't be really going and meeting new people. I'm a pretty introverted, anxious person. I don't like that shit. And so I was like, I'm staying put. They were pretty adamant I was going. And so they bribed me with, I still had bunk beds at the time. I was like 14. They bribed me with a new bed and some new school shoes. I had these big clunky, I think they're called Rugged Sharks.
I know exactly.
Yeah,
I had them.
Yeah.
Well, you know what the funny thing is? They were the it thing in my day.
Maybe from Christchurch.
They were
not up here.
They were back in my day. They were the thing. Hannah's Rugged Sharks. Ooh.
Wasn't the ad Rugged Sharp, they're hip, they're cool, or something like that?
I didn't know the ad, but they were the in shoe.
So at the time, for me, you wanted those like no lace, pull on, pointy shoes. I'd always wanted the no lace, pull on, pointy shoes.
It would have looked really good with the beads uniform.
With the socks and shit, fuck, it was on. And so, so my parents, for the extremely affordable price of a queen bed from one of my dad's clients and some pointy shoes, convinced me to go across to St. Bede's.
So we're like, this is the jackpot.
Yeah, and because
no motorbike,
and honestly, Bede's was a better school. I think if I'd started at St. Bede's, I would have probably done better academically. I think a good chunk of my bad habits I learned at St. Thomas's, but
irrelevant, eh?
Yeah, I'm not like in hindsight.
I went to Shirley Boys and I absolutely loved it.
Shirley Boys, I've got some good friends from Shirley Boys. It was a cool school. I never really got the boys high thing. I've got some mates that I'm okay with from there, but not that many. But heaps of good friends from Stack. I think.
I've got lots of good friends from Stack. St. Margaret's, Rangiroa.
I think
mainly from Stack.
Yeah,
a lot of colleges down there, man.
It's actually a big city considering it's a fucking village. Yeah.
I was thinking about that. It's got lots of really, really, really good private schools.
I would, if I could send my kids anywhere, send them to St. Andrews.
Yeah.
The people that I know that are from St. Andrews have and sure you could attribute this is not a fair test because my parents could have never sent me to St. Andrews because there's no way they could have afforded whatever the fuck it cost to go there, but there's no way. But the people that I know that went to that school are different than the people that I know that didn't. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing that I'll say is whenever I meet people that are my age that are doing well, that have got stuff going on, that are from Christchurch, and I'm like, what school did you go to? It's always fucking St. Andrews. The people that know everyone, that are really well connected, that it's always St. Andrews. Beads, I love Beads, even though I didn't really go that much, but my mates from Beads are fucking legends and I adore them. But everyone that I know that has that jump start on things is from there. I think that's probably the school. Whenever, I've got friends that are putting their kids through it at the moment because I've got a lot of friends that are older than me and I'm always like, that's a great call from someone who's just recently been through it. I agree.
Yeah. No, same thing. All my mates were from Stack.
Yeah.
And my twin and I, we were fortunate enough. We grew up dancing, so we got offered potentials and bits and pieces. We were doing dance with St. Margaret's and Stack. And so we had this open oyster we had the relationships without going there. Yeah. And we were kind of fortunate. We were known as the twins from Shirley.
Yeah.
So it was kind of lovely.
Nice.
Yeah. So how did those relationships, and have you used those relationships in the past for just growth or perspectives or?
One thing that I get to say, which I really like being able to say, and I sort of said the opposite before, which I still very much agree with, is we're a combination of my business is a combination of the people that we know, right? And the things I've learned off my friends and the people that I've gotten to meet and all these things, that's all basically who we are at this point. None of those relationships were given to us, which, or to me probably is, I say us a lot because I talk about the business, but really it's me. I really get to say, hey, I mean, like the Williams Corporation deal, and Matt disagrees with this because we were talking at the landing once and he was like, no, it took you contacting me like 6 times and we just signed the deal. I called that guy like 100 times before we got that done. And when I first contacted him, he knew of me, but didn't know who we were, didn't know, we sort of scrapped to get in everywhere. Michael, who's a good friend of both of ours, who would be one of my best friends now, I cold called him when I was at MediaWorks. I still remember that he came to the cafe in a Corvette and ordered a banana smoothie with a shot of coffee in it.
That little detail matters.
Well,
people don't realize.
Yeah, but this is my this is why I like sales so much. Is my thing. Is like I love that shit.
It's relationships.
Yeah, and so like we those relationships. Garrick's the same. He's a good friend of mine. He's when I talk about people being connected and hungry and being built through that stuff. He's a touch older than me, but like that guy's going really good and he's doing great stuff. St. Andrews, but like he, like all of these people I've met through things, but we've become friends because we've been similar people. That's it. And so I've been really lucky. I've been able to identify people where I've been like, fuck, I like that guy. And then for some reason they've been like, fuck, I like that guy back. And then we've just,
I have to say all my friends from St. Andrews are massively optimistic. So that's all it comes down to. So it's never like, hey, I was thinking about this. Wow, that's amazing. Cool. Never no doubt of, oh, really, can you? So I have to say, obviously the philosophy, and I can say this from Shirley Boyce, like Mr. Lawrenson, phenomenal principal, hugely optimistic. So that's where the correlation kind of, for me,
Going back to what you're just saying, like what you're saying is you've basically positioned yourself to meet the people, right? So if I talk about it sometimes with my networking, I've done BNIs, I've done Chamber of Commerce, and I've done a lot of these things.
Do you hate those things?
I think they're right for certain businesses. What I found is I was always trying to build everyone up, and there was never anyone to build me up.
Yeah.
I was like, not a big fish in a small pond or anything. I don't rate myself, whatever. But people would come to me with questions, and I was always trying to help everyone else, but no one was ever really there for me.
Yeah.
And then,
I think the problem with stuff like that, and please don't feel like I'm cutting you off because I don't want to be at all, but they're full of people that don't know how to get customers.
Yeah.
And so the reason you go to a networking group is because you need business. And the people that you want to be around aren't people that need business. The people you want to be around are the people who are like, how the fuck do I keep up with my demand? Yep. Or how do I become 20 times better than I am, not find 2 extra customers? And so because I've done a bunch of them, right? And for previous businesses but I just could never do it. Anyway, carry on with your story. I hate to jump in.
So I do those things because I like to know everyone.
Yeah.
Like, your network is your net worth, like you're just saying, and that comes down to a lot of things. We're leaving the restaurant before and someone had a yarn, a possible opportunity out of it.
Yeah.
You just don't know. But what I found is everyone thinks that's networking. Whereas I was like, no, fuck that. I like cars. There's a car event coming up. So I'm going to drive all the way to Christchurch where I know no one, and drove down me and my wife last year. And that's where I met all of you guys. And now we're best mates. We're doing push-up competitions every day.
Yeah,
we're in contact every day.
I was just thinking.
You're wearing a white shirt too, so you're probably looking even more jacked.
But it's not luck that I met you guys.
No.
I positioned myself to be there, and then also we're on a similar tangent through the hard work that we've done. So now we're all good mates. Had I not decided to do that, I wouldn't know of you guys. I probably wouldn't have been to Christchurch 6 times in the last year to come and hang out with you guys.
Yeah.
But, it was one of the best moves I've made because you're some of my best mates now. It's fucking fantastic. But it's not luck. I positioned myself. And anyone can do it.
Well, it's just simple seeing something that you're interested, mutual opportunities, and being open to the potential. And
if you're a dick, it won't work.
No.
That's the other thing I like about it, right?
It only works if you're a good person.
Yeah.
So going around and actually, I think it's actually super important about as well, not everything's an exchange of energy. You're just going and you're just being you. I think that's really important. You're just doing what you'd be doing anyway. Yeah. And if they've got value in it, it's perfect. Well done. Let's do something.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people that won't get me the same way as it will be with both of you, right? A lot of people. And I'm quite a fucking personality, and it fucks people off because someone will be like, oh, and I've had a really big day because this has happened. I'm like, that's fucking bullshit. And they're like, what? I'm like, no, like for real, like fucking put your head in. Like there's no, like, but it's not from like a, look at me, I'm elite. It's just like, dude, there's some fucking kid that hasn't eaten in like 3 weeks overseas that's complaining less than you. Some dude who fucking arm got blown off and his whole fucking family's dead, complains less than you. You need to relax. Like you making your afterpay payment on Monday is not that big of a deal. You need like, and so I think like some of that stuff just riles me up. Because of that, I'm painful to be around for a lot of people because they'll be like, well, it's just bullshit because fucking Cindy at work did this and that. And I'm like, fuck up. Like, come on, man. Like it's all good. You've got like, you're in this place where like the world is your oyster. You can do anything you want to do. No one's forcing you to do anything. I think like
it's that extreme optimism though too, because it's actually seeing the good out of all opportunities and situations.
Yeah. Yeah. And truthfully, and I'm like a deeply empathetic person, and it probably sounds a little bit backwards saying that and then saying I'm empathetic, but the only reason that I think that they tie together so well is because I want everyone to realize how good things are. That's the reason why I'm to the point with this stuff. And
I get you because you're seeing and going, actually, that's your own personal roadblock. Let's shift that perspective.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of clients as well, like, oh, how are you going? I'm actually really fucking good.
Yeah.
I'm awesome.
But when's the last time you heard someone say that when you ask them? I also believe in honesty. Because if someone's like, how are you? I'm like, man, I'm not going to lie, I'm getting my head kicked in. Yeah. But it's like, it's in a positive way.
I say it.
And they're like, what the fuck?
I was like, I'm like straight up, I'm pretty damn tired, you know, but I'm good, you know. But and then guess what? You have that straight up honesty straight away because you're not lying to yourself. You're actually growing and you're actually getting the energy that you may have needed anyway. And you're like, yeah, life's actually sweet.
What? Like, we've all got fuck all to complain about. Me and Jason are about to go drive around the North Island for 5 days and cut, you know, like...
I almost cried. I got so happy thinking about it. Is that what I'm doing for the next 5 days?
Yeah. Like, thank God. You know, I do a lot of things. Whenever I get the chance, I always do stuff for other people. And I want to touch on a story. I really don't like talking about a lot of the things that I do because I think that it makes it really disingenuous and it makes it seem like I'm doing these things for myself to seem better, but I'm not. But like on Saturday morning, took a sleeping pill and slept through and missed my flight to go back for my niece's birthday. And I've got a good friend of mine, Blair, and he was like, well, we've got a jet at 12. Do you want to just come and jump on it with us? And I was like, what the fuck is my life? Right? Like, I was like, this is the stupidest thing in the world. So I jumped in my new car and I drove to the jet terminal, jumped on a private plane from Auckland to Christchurch, hopped off, got dropped at my truck in Christchurch and went straight to my niece's birthday. They're having breakfast. And I was there and I was sort of sitting there and I was like, fuck, that's just like, all this stuff is just ludicrous. Like I'm 25, I get to do all these things that most people never get to do in their entire lives. Like this is
especially
just
in New
fucking
Zealand.
epic.
It's unheard of. Yeah.
And my sister, who I absolutely adore and will be probably, I would bet, because she said it to me and I know she's like me, will wind up being quite big in DJing and will do really good things. She's a solo mum. She's got a daughter, my niece, who's 4. And I was leaving because I was like, we need to go buy Violet some birthday presents. Sorry. It was her birthday and George is like, she needs clothes. I was like, sweet, so we'll go do some clothes. And I know Violet doesn't actually want clothes. She loves clothes, but she wants toys. So we'll do some toys as well. As we're leaving, Mum's like, so we're going to go halves with Georgia in a washing machine. But it's going to put a little bit of pressure on her. You know, like she needs a washer and a dryer. And I was like, we're not fucking having it. So I was like, Mum, come on, we're going to ANZ. So we just drove. I went, got a whole bunch of cash out, put it in an envelope. And I was like, we're just fixing it for Violet's birthday. I'm going to buy Georgia a washing machine. That's what I'm going to do. And obviously I'm going to do the shit for Violet because Violet doesn't give a fuck about a washing machine. I'm going to do that. And so I got there and Dad didn't know it because I'd made this impulse decision. Like I was just feeling grateful, right? Because every morning I wake up and I'm like, fuck, my life is sick. That's my first thought. I'm like, this is amazing. No matter how much pressure, no matter how little pressure, no matter what it is, I'm like, I'm the luckiest person in the entire world. All I do is just dream shit and then work really hard and it all just happens around me. Like, this is so cool. So Dad didn't know what was going on. No one knew what was going on. Violet went into a room and shut the door, and she's like hiding under her covers. And I'm like, Violet, I'm going to put your presents out. She's like, yeah. And she's like real excited. In my back pocket, I have an envelope full of cash. And so Violet comes out, she sees her presents, and she's like jumping. I've got all this on video. It's fucking adorable. My dad showed it to one of his clients, and this is like a mid-50s CEO of a massive car company who started crying at the Carlton at 3 p.m. because it's so cool. And then I'm like, Violet, come here. I'm like, I need to whisper in your ear. And I'm like, Violet, I've got a present for Mum. Do you want to give it to her? And she's like, yeah. And I gave her this envelope, and she went and gave it to Georgia. I'm like, how fucking cool is that, right? Like, trade in all the other shit, trade in all the cars, trade in all the driving around, trade in all that stuff. Like, the fact that I have the ability to see things happen and be like, I want to be a part of that. See this kid who's running 3 kilometers a day, who's dreaming of raising $2,000 for charity and being like, fuck, I'm going to give him $500 and like that kind of thing. Like that's what's cool. And then that's what we're talking about the tall poppy thing as well. You want to be bulletproof from tall poppy, do a whole bunch of that shit. Because then when someone turns around and they go, fuck, you're a loser, you do this or you do that or you wear this watch, you do whatever, you're bulletproof. You can't, you know what you're doing. You know what you're,
I 100% resonate with you.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing you can do is actually give, and Jason talks about it a lot. Like I do it in lots of different other ways.
Yeah.
With regards to providing care to people that no way in hell can afford it. Like me, myself growing up. Yeah. There's no way in hell my parents could have afforded my own personal care. Yeah. So it's just wasn't. I didn't even know about a chiropractor until somebody was like, hey, you'd make a great chiropractor. And I actually said to him, what the fuck is that? So, and then you're like, holy moly. Actually, he was 100% correct. I'm a fucking great chiropractor. But how you're able to kind of grow and you know what? I had somebody say to me, like, it was a few years ago, and it was like when I was kind of just starting to earn money and stuff like that. And I was like, he said, oh, you earn too much money. And then as a result, I actually just turned around and said, actually, I don't think I earn enough. Yeah. And it was actually the legit, I don't earn enough because if I earn more, I can give more. I can help so many more people rather than me giving my time. Yeah. You know, I give my time anyway, but what's the limit? What's the cap? There's got more than enough money in the world for everybody. Yeah. That everybody can grow because person A has it doesn't mean that person B has to be without. Yeah.
And the beauty of capitalism, which is the way that our society functions currently and the way that I hope it continues to, is money winds up in the right people's pockets. It's the way that it works. And I've just finished a book, and there are heaps of people, and I don't know what your audience listenership's like, but it's pretty irrelevant. Like it's not really a big piece of the consideration of saying this, who think that the government will dish it out fairer, or that socialism is, it's not the solution. But that also doesn't mean that everyone who's capitalist is some fucking tyrant who just wants to go to sleep on a pile of cash. That's not the thing, right? Like, I'm deeply capitalist. I believe in a free market. I believe in people being able to go with the service provider that they believe provides the best value back to them. I also believe in being able to do whatever the fuck I want with that money when it comes in as well. Truth is the majority of people that get to the point of being successful actually want to do really good shit with that money. Sure, they might buy some cars or a boat or do some things like that as well, but they should.
It gets to a point where you really can't spend the money, because you spending the money on personal things doesn't make you happier. So what you find is actually, by like the story for yourself, is actually the difference I can make to my sister or my family or even staff or extended above that is huge. And that is where you actually get more joy than the Porsche you drive.
Do you know what? I actually don't get more or less. I've thought really deeply about this, because I'm like, whatever gives me that, because I'm so analytical, right? Like my brain is just in versus out. That's the only way that I think. It's effort in versus new clients in. It's money spent for those clients versus the result. Like, I'm just like this. I get a feeling thrashing a car, driving through a hill that I just can't match anywhere else. I also get a feeling doing shit like that I can't match anywhere else. They're both completely comparable. I just don't get what it is.
Completely
riding my
different.
bike. Yeah, like riding my bike, like that feeling of being like, holy shit, I'm on two wheels hurtling down a hill. I'm about to go jump over this fucking road or whatever it is. Like that does something for me. It makes me click. Sure, when you fall, you have pretty bad repercussions. I've found this yet, but it is what it is. Like,
but do you want to know what you're really actually neglecting in that whole moment as well? You're completely present in that entire moment.
Which is probably the thing that I look for is because, and the other thing as well, and this is one thing that I'll say is this whole abolish tall poppy thing. And the truth is that the people that have this tall poppy syndrome and that hate these people that are doing well, they don't have it. Yeah. They don't have what it takes to do the things that probably every person sitting in this room does, that all the people that I spend my time with do. They don't have it. And that's why they hate you. That's it. Is because they know it takes something that they don't have. They know that they don't have it. And because of that, they don't get to have the experiences that we get to have. They don't get to do this shit that, like, the truth is just to be born in New Zealand, we're in like the top 1% of the 1% in the world. And then when you go into the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of that, you go, this is stuff that most people in history will never experience. But do you know what would fuck you up? Is because I think that everyone's internal dialogue is completely honest. This is my thought around this stuff. I don't know if it's just mine. Maybe people lie to themselves and they actually believe it. I've tried lying to myself. It hasn't worked for me. I think that everyone's internal dialogue is completely honest. I think that all the people that know me and saw me come up over the last 4 years all know they're smarter than me. I think they all know that they had more than me. I think they all know they're more talented. I think they all know they had a head start. And I think that if they dislike me at this point, they don't dislike me, they dislike themselves because they're like, fuck, I want the things that he's doing right now. He didn't have anything on me.
But this is this whole point of this whole podcast, and Jace might agree or disagree, but it's to realise that everybody is capable of greatness.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah,
it's just a mindset.
And greatness isn't Porsches and giving your sister envelopes of cash. That's the other thing as well that's important here is that there's people that will do these things in different ways.
Yes.
It's just, if you're insecure about it, you haven't found yours. And that's the thing that I'd say that really sits with it is like, I'm like, hate me, like please. And and maybe this is something that I learned. I use that I don't think enough people hate me quote before. Maybe this is something that I learned then, but like, please hate me. I want you to. And if you've got people that hate you, send them in my direction because I can handle them. I'll take it all. I don't give a shit because I get to look at myself in the mirror and go, hey, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm about. I know my there's no insecurity there. What I think people struggle with is if you're doing these things, like let's say you go out and you buy a brand new BMW. First time, and you're wearing a fucking $10,000 suit. You went to uni or whatever. You got this job. You don't feel it. You don't have that I feel like I've done the thing that I've always been dreaming of thing. And then someone goes, there's that wanker. That's going to sit with you a little bit. If you grew up with pictures of cars everywhere, every time someone drove past you in a nice car, you're like, I can't wait till I'm older and I could do that. If you really care about this shit, if like you said, there's that present thing that you seek out so aggressively in everything that you do. I love things that take my mind off work because I commit so heavily to what I do with work. I love everything that's not that and that I'm 100% focused on. I don't care if you like my cars or not. I don't care if you think it's a good use of money or not.
Yeah. The reason why you're not doing it is because you're not doing it for external validation.
I don't care.
Yeah, no.
And also I've got two friends that have bought McLarens in the last 2 weeks. I'm the one that's like, I fucking love that for you. I'm like, I know how big of a deal this was for you.
Yeah.
I know that everyone else, and they're like, oh, we don't really want people to know. I'm like, I respect the fuck out of it. I'm not telling anyone about what's going on, but I just need you to know, bro, I'm stoked for you. Yeah. I think that's so cool. And I can't wait until you're sending me this message in a year and I've just bought my McLaren. that's going to be but you know, like that's how it's supposed to be.
Funnily, I had this conversation in reverse earlier today. I was like, you know what, after this tour, I might let my fucking Audi go. I was like, I love it. I've been on 4 tours with it. I've met all these guys. Like, that's almost a forever car for me. But right now, for my business and where I want to go, a little bit of what you've touched on, you're probably a bit of the inspiration from it. I'm like, I just need to free up that money. I'll pump it back into the business, and that stuff will come later on. And someone says to me, oh yeah, but aren't you worried about like what people will think of you, like in the circles you're in? I'm like, fuck, they're the first people that tell me to get rid of that car.
Yeah. And they'll
be like, get rid of that fucking car, put it in your business, that stuff will come if you want it. And if you don't want it, no one gives a shit. Like, you're still our mate.
The biggest thing as well, and like this is what I don't think people have enough of in their life, is fuck them. Like this, like, and I mean that in the most endearing, loving way possible. But like, I did the thing. Like, I had a trapped out F80 M3. I had an Audi Q8. 24, living in this penthouse apartment in Christchurch, doing all these things. Burned the apartment, sold both the cars, bought a Ranger, went all the way back in Christchurch, and I was like, I hope everyone thinks I'm going out of business. Like, that was the way my head was too. I was like, I want all of these people to be like, fuck, this guy must be going badly, because when I just go, it's going to feel so much better when they thought that it was going badly than it would if they didn't. And maybe this theme's come across in this podcast, maybe it hasn't, but if you spend enough time around me, I'm deeply competitive, and I'm that chip on the shoulder. I'm the kid that was dumb and had the mental health issues and was fucking anxious and that kind of thing. That never leaves you when you're like that. And so you always have this little like stick it to them thing that's important to you with the way that you think. I was like, I want it. Like, I would love nothing more than for there to be people sitting at bars being like, fuck, he must be hurting. All the people that have been watching us being like, I don't get how those cars work. I don't get how he's doing things. I want them to be there like, he's in trouble. He'll be gone in 6 months. So in 6 months, when I'm 3 times the size that I am now, that person remembers that conversation that you two had. You can't hide that from each other. You remember that internal dialogue that you had being like, I finally got him. You can't get rid of that. That's there forever. The cars are back. The team's 3 times the size it was. You know, like it felt like I'm like that. I remember that shit, and it's all for me.
Well, this is going to be a perfect segue into my favourite question, our favourite question. So what's some advice you would give your younger self?
The 18-year-old James.
Or the 12-year-old, or what's the advice you'd give your younger self?
From your experiences today.
So I got an expression, and it's my favourite probably of all of them, which is the funny thing about your cards, right? Like your story, call them, let's say we're playing poker and everyone's story is 2 cards. We all put the cards in the centre of the table. You can take anyone's. You can swap places with anyone. We'd all take our own cards back. And so that's really big for me. That's like a huge piece of my mentality is, although I've got a million things that I know now that I didn't used to know, although I feel bad for my old self for some of the things I didn't understand that I now understand, I'd never swap anything. I'd never. There's some interesting advice that I'd give for people at different stages of different things. My 12-year-old self was probably a little bit more, my 12-year-old self was battling some heavy mental health, like that sort of shit. Mm-hmm. I'd explain to him that when you find your purpose, that stuff doesn't matter. And so there's no point stressing out too much about everything. You just need to do things you care about, and you won't have to worry about that stuff anymore. I think that's super important. I think you go 18-year-old self, that was when I was really kind of in the midst of, should I have dropped out of school? Should I have gone to uni? Should I have done this? Probably the point in my life where I thought most about what people thought of me out of anything else. And so your advice there would just be, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Just do your thing. And if you work really hard and you think forward and you focus on what's coming up, you're not actually going to have to worry about much else. Advice to someone starting out a business would be hire every person you possibly can. There's no such thing as good and bad staff. There are good and bad managers and good and bad systems. And so if you have the right business and you're the right boss, you'll pull the best out of everyone. employ. I put it off for ages. I didn't hire people when I should have. If there's one thing that led to that, those initial 2 years being kind of like what I'd say chalked years, it's that I didn't have staff. I didn't have that kind of stuff happening. So I was my business and I was doing everything. Same with like, I wanted to keep control over sales. I let go of sales. My business sells more than it's ever sold because now there's more people selling and they can put more effort into it. Yeah. So I suppose advice is different along the different things, but the one thing that I'd say is I wouldn't swap anything out.
It's amazing. That's great talk. I want to touch on, you're saying you've had a lot of anxiety and sort of mental health. Like mental health is huge for me. Obviously we did Movember together. So James was in my Movember team last year. Piss week effort, mate, raising money. Fuck, that was weak.
I'll get it this time.
Maybe we'll do a
so I've reached out to Movember. I might reach out to Robert June. So he's the main guy from Movember and get him on the podcast going into October. And then we should fucking give it a real good nudge this year.
I'll smash it.
Yeah, I expect that from you.
I
expect that from you. But anxiety is a big one. I think everyone deals with anxiety at times. And this is a bit of last week's guest. We touched on sort of when you reach anxiety, ways of breaking the loop. Like what's helped you overcome anxiety in your own life?
So people don't take ownership for their stuff enough is my thoughts. And this is, once again, like I said, I'm that guy that has the advice you don't want to hear a lot of the time because it's true and it fucking sucks.
I think it's important to have extreme ownership.
Yeah. Jocko Willink.
Yeah.
What a book. What a fucking book. So here's my thoughts, right? And this comes from someone that's been right in it. I've been all the way. I understand this shit. Eat well, have a purpose. This is probably the thing that overwhelms everything else. Is like wake up every day with something to do, and it's not just something to do like, oh yeah, at 9 o'clock I'm going to go here, and then like wake up every day like my mission is, once again. Look after yourself. Like for fuck's sake, sleep enough, eat the right food, do push-ups. It's not that you can't sit here and have a few beers and like eat some shitty food and do some stuff every now and again. But the overwhelming theme needs to be positive.
You're focusing on your self-growth.
Yeah. How the fuck are you supposed to feel good if you're like 20 kilos overweight? You got no money. No one wants to fucking hang out with you. No girls are interested in you. None of these things are going on. You can't not feel shit. This is like, and I don't know why people don't have this conversation with people at times. It's like, or stop smoking weed, or stop doing like, you know, like if you're fucking vaping all day long, you don't drink water, you haven't done exercise for 30 days, and you eat once a day and sleep at 2 a.m. and then you're like, fuck, my life sucks, I'm depressed. You are an idiot.
Don't worry, I would be too.
But also
too. You're doing a formula that's going to actually fail.
The only reason that I can say that is because that was, and admittedly, like I have some pretty chemical and balancey shit. Like I've had this when I was like a fucking kid. Like I was like probably 8-9 years old when I first had depression, and that's gone the whole way through. And I at the time didn't understand what it was, and then as I got older and older, I did. The beauty was, as I got older and started to understand what it was, I started to figure out, because I'm so analytical, right? Like this is the one thing I love about my brain more, is it sees things in a way where my emotion is removed from it the majority of the time. And so despite the fact that I'm going through these episodes where I don't want to leave my room, I don't want to fucking talk to anyone, I don't want anything to do with anyone, internally I'm still able to be like, I know the right thing for you to do is to leave your room. I know the right thing for you to do is to do, I know. And so that's why my advice to people in this thing is so cutthroat and brutal, is it's because if you don't have that voice in your head, someone needs to be it. Someone needs to be like, bro, go to the fucking gym. Yeah. Go lift some heavy shit. Eat a fucking salad, motherfucker. Have some broccoli, have some steak. You know, like someone needs to be that voice for you. Go, like, if you hate your job, leave it. Fuck. Like that, you know, like I don't know what more there is to say. It's like, you seriously think at 23 you're going to ruin your life because you left a job as, I don't know what the fuck you do that you'd hate. Like I have this expression with the girl that I'm seeing, she works at Lululemon, and I'm like, they're just stretchy pants. Like, you got a problem with work, you just sell stretchy pants. It's all good. Don't stress too much. She loves it, but she actually said it first, to be fair. But it's just like, don't get tied up in
Make it
this
a bigger
stuff.
thing than what it is.
And also, work isn't the thing for a lot of people. So my code isn't, I know for me, I feel my worst and my most anxious when I'm not putting in the work at work. That's the worst thing for me. Second would be I'm being unhealthy. Third would be I'm not maintaining relationships with the people around me. And so if I feel shit, first thing I do is I make sure I get everything in order at work. I go, what do I need to do to make me feel like this stuff is sorted? Then I'm like, I'm training 7 days next week. I'm eating right. I'm not drinking any piss. I'm doing, I'm sorting all that stuff out. And then I'll go and connect with the people that I need to connect with. I'll go see my niece, my sister. I'll go say, I'll do that sort of stuff. If I check those 3 things off, I don't feel shit anymore. There's no...
it's surprising how that happens.
And also, you can't be anxious when you've got forward momentum. That's the other thing that I've learned is anxiety is a fear of going backwards. It's a fear of... It's built into us genetically. It's based off us being worried about being kicked out of the tribe when we were cavemen and being abandoned, and then some saber-toothed tiger stalking us and eating us. If you've got forward momentum and you're growing, you can't be anxious.
Yes.
So that's key. That forward momentum doesn't have to look like money. This is where I get stuck.
It just needs to be progress.
Yeah, it just needs to be progress. And so that's where the gym, I think, is good for a lot of people.
And going back to that caveman thing that you just talked about, no one had depression back in the day because they woke up and a fucking saber-toothed tiger was chasing them, and they had to either kill it so they can eat or they're about to be eaten.
Yeah.
So that their purpose every day was to survive.
Yeah. What I think, because I've thought long and hard about this, what I think about the depression thing is I think that because the world has become so easy, we have chemical imbalances that cause it. So I think, and because this is and this is the way it was always explained to me, is it's a chemical imbalance. I've never taken antidepressants in my life. I kept, because I felt so weak about my mental health issues when I was younger, I kept them to myself. And then when I finally realized what they were, I was already had enough of a grasp over it that when I went and actually spoke to people about it and they were like, do you want these? I was like, no, I would. And I'm also the guy, and this is what suits me in businesses. I like the grit. Like I like the fight of the shit. I enjoy, it's the same with business. I'm like, I feel like your business getting bigger feels better when you know that you earned it getting bigger than it does. It's the same thing with when you feel better when you come through something like this. And so what I probably would say to that is the stuff doesn't have to be monetary. It's just the vice that I've found. Not every person that's like, I don't want to be depressed anymore needs to go start a business. That's not the solution to this, but the solution is to find something. Do you want to be the best runner? Do you want to be the best, like whatever it is that becomes your vice?
Versions their greatness.
Yeah, but go like work at it. Yeah. Put in the hours.
The graft, the little, where you're getting that self-belief and self-confidence, that self-worth, and confidence comes from just simply doing.
Yeah.
It really does. The reason why I'm so confident on the tatami is because I've had constant wars. I can tell you now, I would be very comfortable with a world champ rolling. I might not submit them, but I know for a fact they'd have a bloody hard time with me because I'm phenomenal at defense. It's just one of those things. And that's because I am very, very good, and I've just had the time. And guess what? Over time, you've had difficult situations within your life. Yeah. It's easy. You can challenge it. And guess what? It's not that big of a deal if you do have to tap. What's the worst thing? Nothing.
Yeah. And that then becomes a whole nother tier, and this is where the anxiety thing comes in, is what are you actually anxious of? And you go through and you break down. Is it that big of a deal?
Well, 90% of what you're worried about never happens.
Fuck, I'd say it's 100 for me.
I would actually say 99%, 99.99999%.
That's right, but that's it. Like whether it's making a phone call, I got to do this, I got to do that.
Yeah,
people get fucking so wound up.
The thing about anyone you speak to who's got anxiety as well is like what you're afraid of when you look back on it is fucking ludicrous. Like where your brain goes what
deal
you
with it. Yeah, I deal
create
with it, yeah.
in your head, you're like, you look back on it, you're like,
How?
how did I even get there? Where's the? But also, you start to understand this stuff, right? And once again, like you want to remove anxiety, create some forward momentum. You stop caring.
That's where I like Grant Cardone. You want to meet your maker, leave white space in your calendar.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's
that was
100%
so
it. Because I'm like sitting there, I'm like worried about something. The only reason I'm fucking worrying about it is because I've got too much time on my hands. If I've got no time to think about it, it's not on the radar. I'm like, all right, what's the next task I'm picking up? Boom.
White space in your calendar is the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like once again, I think this is probably better advice because a lot of the stuff that I talk about is, sorry, I'm super fidgety. I can see you looking at me playing this bottle camera.
No.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
I know what to get you for your birthday now. It's our anxiety.
I think
I was the kid at the back of the class doing the same thing. So
sticking pencils to the roof and shit. I think that's probably advice if you give it to anyone who's going through something like that is be busy.
Yeah.
Don't go start a business because someone on a podcast was like, I used to have anxiety and now I don't really have to deal with it too much. And now I have a business. That's not the business and me not having anxiety don't go together. If anything, my business has made not having anxiety at least 40 times harder than my fucking life was before. Because now I have the responsibility of all these people. I got all these bills coming in. Every month, 150, 200 grand comes out of my account. That doesn't change. That will induce some anxiety, right? So like a business isn't the solution, but doing fuck all is not going to help you.
No, the solution is go mow the lawns. Hey, there's a smudge on the window.
Do your fucking washing that you should have done a week ago.
I washed the window.
Yeah.
Actually, I washed my house on the weekend because it's been bugging me and the fucking group gave me shit. Like, wouldn't you just pay someone $400 to do it? I'm like, well, it's looking out here. It's fucking me off. I just did it.
Yeah.
Sorry. But it was good for me too to just get out there and fucking do it. You know?
And
rather than
like,
sit around doing nothing.
I listed those three things before, and probably the easiest way to tell how my life is going is go to my houses. Go to Auckland and Christchurch, walk into my house, look at how tidy it is. You can tell how my life is at that point in time based on that.
The shit you got done.
Yeah. Like,
mine's my shed.
Yeah.
My shed. If my shed is clean and tidy,
everything's on form.
Everything's on form.
Because this house has been in renovation for 5 years, so so don't judge him by his house.
4.5. But in saying that though, now the spaces that are done are tidy, but still, it's like folding your bed in the morning.
So important.
Alex Hormozy, because I fucking love his content.
He's good. Yeah.
He puts it really well. He's like, he takes the piss out of this millionaire morning routine bullshit.
Yeah.
And I get him. He's
just
like,
do more. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, want to know how to make $1 million? You want to know how to become a millionaire? Go to work. If you want to go to work with a messy bed, if you want to go to work with the made bed, that's up to you. But if you want to go become a millionaire, go to fucking work.
When I say make the bed, it's not necessarily make the bed.
No, but it's important.
It's the mindset of it.
No, so where I was going to go is like, I'm the make the bed guy.
Yeah.
Like, make my bed, washing's done. Like, I haven't got that fucking chair in my room covered in shit. Like, my life's in order. Yeah. Everything's going good. Equally, you might be a person who doesn't care about that stuff. Progress is in the work that's done. Yes. I'm with you. Everything is in order and I feel a lot better. I don't know whether everyone clicks, but everyone's got to find that thing.
Like,
right?
For me, like, I could walk around and my wife hates me. Like, I could leave my clothes there and I know they're coming back and I'm going to sort that out later.
Yeah.
But for me, my shed needs to be tidy. Yeah. If I was back in the day when I was studying and did 8 years of study, if I needed to study, my room had to be tidy. Like, little things that I know that I need to do to focus, important. Like, even my shed, just knowing for the fact that my shed is tidy is such a huge shift for me. It's like, okay, cool, sweet. It's weird, but yeah. But I
get it.
I can even easily get up from the bed, not tidy it because I get up super early. Just get back to it, and I'm cool.
And I can function pretty well with everything on fire around me at this point. Like I've gotten to that point where everything can be going wrong and I can just switch it off. Used to fuck with me. I vividly remember, especially my MediWorks days, door to door was a mess. Like that sort of time of my sales process where my sales learning, I'd probably a better way of putting it, where if everything wasn't right, like let's say I had a fight with the girl I was seeing or something like that had happened, I'd go to work and I wouldn't be able to sell anything. Yeah. I learned that out quite early, and so I could roll in, because the other thing as well is there's nothing worse than a desperate salesperson. I've always said that. It's like the way you sell when you don't need to sell versus the way you sell when you desperately need to sell are polar opposites. Yeah. People want to buy off people that don't desperately need them to be customers. So I learnt that quite early.
You can tell.
Fuck, you sweat it. You smell like it when you walk in the room if you need someone. And so I've been in positions where my business has been at awful points, and this wasn't when I had staff, thankfully. But I remember one time early in the process where I was at the point where I had to pay rent on Monday. And I think my rent at the time was $165 a week. And I tapped out everything. And so that's not, I'm at zero, I'm below zero. Tapped out everything. I didn't have $165. And I signed this deal on the Friday and convinced these guys that every single person that signs with us pays us a $500 deposit, because that's how they show that they're keen. The only $500 deposit that I've ever taken, because I don't have any money for fucking rent on Monday. So I know how, but I fought through this desperate salesperson thing, and I figured out how to be desperate and just to switch it off, to go in and approach every deal the same way. Where it's at now, which has probably been even stronger, is I really, if someone comes to me and they want to work with us, I love new business. I love us growing. It's not my responsibility anymore. And I really don't give a shit. I had someone text me the other day. They called and then they text and they're like, oh, my franchisee or something's recommended that we get in touch with you. I probably get this maybe 3 times a day, I'd say at the moment, different calls and stuff from people that I don't know. And so I just refer them all on to my salespeople. And this person said, no, my franchisee told me to deal with you. And I was just like, I don't do that. That doesn't exist for me anymore. I'm like, it's not a thing. I'm like, if that's a make or break, yeah. I'm like, if that's a make or break, man, I'll give you 3 websites of people that you should check out, because I don't, and we're really lucky to be at that point now where I'm like, I don't adhere to your shit. We've got enough going on. I don't give a fuck. Being truthfully honest, whether you come on board or not makes no difference to me.
You're going to be providing the best value service that you can anyway.
Do you know, it's not even that. So what I reckon it's come down to is I remember someone saying this once in a meeting I was in, and I was just like, how we talked before about those people say things in front of you, and it's like your 2 bits of your brain that have never spoken before connect, and you can never see the world differently again.
Yeah.
They were like, whether you sign this deal or not, I'm going here. And they were like, I have enough going on that you will or will not be a part of it, and that's up to you, but I'm still going to this point. That's us now, is I'm like, hey, I know, irrelevant of what happens, 4 to 7 people are going to jump on board with Digital Simple this week. I know it because I've seen it happen for the last 16 weeks. So go deal with one of my salespeople and sign with us. That's great. Think I'm a dick because I won't jump on an online call with you. Okay. I don't want you to think I'm a dick. I wish I had the time to jump on a call with you. The truth is, you don't realize I'm actually doing you a disservice if I say yes, because I know I'm a worse salespeople than my salespeople now, because I don't have the time for this stuff. I got all this staff I'm managing. I'm getting all this future thinking in. I'm doing all this training and doing
from sales.
But I actually can't do it. And what I realized is I was like, if I put 40 hours a week into sales, would I outsell any of the salespeople in my business? Of course I would. It's not fair on them. I'm the director of the company. I've done this for 4 years. There's no way that any of them would be able to compete with me. Truth is, I've got about 36 minutes a week that I can put towards it, and they've got 40 hours. How am I supposed to compete with them? This is what people don't understand. They think that I'll deal with the director, I get the VIP treatment. Fuck, it's the opposite. If you want the VIP treatment, deal with Sam, right? One of my sales guys out of Christchurch. He's the best in our company at what he does. You tell him, hey, mate, give me a call on Thursday. Thursday, your phone rings. You tell him, all I need from you is this. He'll go and get it. You tell, like, that's the VIP treatment. All he'll do is just bring me in if he gets stuck with something. That's where I'm supposed to fit in is, hey, these ads aren't where we want them to be. How can we get them there? I'll come in and problem solve. That's, you know.
It's also knowing your role within the company.
Yeah. And
it's important to kind of let those kind of reins go and you're like, actually, where my value lies.
Yeah. It's the difference between good and bad business people is being able to do that.
And one of my favourite sayings is leaders create leaders, right?
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're creating those leaders so that what you're doing as a business is you're bringing people together. You're bringing the staff together. Yeah, you might bring some clients in, but you're the face, you're the voice of that business now, you know. Look at Gary Vee, how much content he turns out. It's essentially what I'm leading myself towards too. I want to be impactful with the people I sit down with. I don't want to be sitting behind a computer typing out an email. I need those people underneath me. My time is spent fixing your problem, like you just said, and then, just being the voice of the business.
Yeah.
That's where you need to be.
Yeah. And I said this before, but hire fucking everyone if you're in business.
Everyone, you available?
Everyone. Like there's no such thing as good or bad staff. It's good or bad systems and good or bad managers. And I'll never, having learnt what I've learnt over the last probably 2 years, maybe 2 and a bit of having employees, I'll never be able to see that differently again, I don't think. We have people that I know for a fact in our team right now would struggle in other agencies that thrive with us and that are some of our most valuable employees. We have that because it's and it's not like our system sucked, right? But they had the power to be like, do you think it can be better? Show me how. And then they fixed it. You know, there's all these things around it that have just made it better. Hi, everyone.
I was on the call to my twin. I talked with my twin. He's doing some pretty cool things within chiropractic as well. Very different business models, but very, very cool. If I was starting a business that wasn't in Tauranga, be like his.
Yeah.
Okay. But his business model would not work here though. So, but we were having a chat and he was like, I've redeveloped this particular, how I've done this 20 times, just constantly changing it. No, that's not quite right. Let's do it. Let's constantly develop rather than be like first copy, second copy. That's that. You got to constantly adapt and change to the situation, the times you're in, what could be better. Yeah.
We talked about this before as well with the people and situations. Sometimes you'll just be wrong. Mm-hmm. And I think people really struggle to be like, I am wrong way more than they should. Mm. You should be able to just be like, I fucked that one up. Like I said, my mate with the email, dude's been doing this 4 times as long as me. Got 15 years on me, probably, in terms of age. And I was like, mate, that's a waste of your time. And he was just like, you're right. You need people around you like that who are that willing to take on feedback and that kind of thing like that.
And that honest answer.
And that would have been anxiety from how do I reply to this, the energy it took to reply to that email. He could have directed towards something positive for the day and something that moved the business forward.
Yeah.
Some of my best advice has been from my wife where I've received an email and the old me would have just gone, okay, I was just about to go and actually in my righteous self rip them a new one. Yeah. And then Abby's like, you're not sending anything. You're not even replying.
Yeah, sleep on it.
And then, I'm not joking, sleep on it. You're like, I didn't need to do that. And you're like, I'm so glad I didn't because that would have blown up the whole situation. And guess what? It sorted itself out.
And also, try get on a call or get in an online meeting. Ideally, get in front of someone. Oh, that's our thing. That fixes a lot of problems, and that's something that doesn't exist in the world now as much as it should. Is if anything, we internally have a rule where if anything could be perceived as being confrontational or anything that's not positive, it must be delivered with tone of voice. That's our one rule. So you'll go.
It's a good rule.
Top to bottom. First one is sit face to face. Second one is online meeting. Third one is call. Fourth one, if you're really fucked and it's urgent and you have to send something through, is a voice message on your phone, but it must be delivered with tone of voice. Because if I go, like, you can read a message I send you as anything you want.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you're worried about me saying, whatever it is that that anxious brain, like anxious voice in your head says that I just said, is what I said if there's no tone of voice. If there's tone of voice, you can't lie to yourself. If I'm like, hey man, I really like that idea, but I'm a little bit worried that we're getting a bit off path here. Our original idea was that we were going to do this and now we're here. Do you think we should go more towards that? You're like, yeah, bro, that sounds super reasonable. If I'm like, bro, you said we were going to go here and now we're going here. Let's go there. You're like, hold up. You can switch both of those things internally. There's no
positive or negative.
Don't fucking type it.
Yes.
Like that,
yes.
like that's the one thing. And we're in this age now where like I've got to see both. I get that perfect hybrid where like when I first grew up and was like first trying to talk to chicks and all that sort of shit, we didn't have fucking Messenger. We had MSN actually, which isn't good. Yeah, that wasn't good. You guys know all the way without it, right? But then I've also got to see the opposite, which is all the way with it, all the Tinders and all this sort of shit. Messages can get fucked. They are not the solution to like 99.9% of these problems. It's about the other stuff. That's what's important. The way that you talk, the way that you communicate, that's what's key. And so just try to lean on that as much as possible and making sure that you don't like, stuff just gets misconstrued and you wind up in problems and all that kind of stuff just because you don't have the balls to be like, hey, can we have a coffee and talk about this? I don't know.
Yeah, no.
What a fucking legend. 25 years old. I think we can wrap it up there, or you want to keep going? I don't know.
I can do.
We need a piss again. I need a piss again. So it's probably a good time to wrap it up.
I think we'll wrap it up because we got some push-ups to get in, and it's already 9 o'clock, and we're going to pump out some kilometres tomorrow too. So,
hey,
what a pleasure.
Like to personally thank you very much for your knowledge and just being super open. Like I actually don't feel like anything was actually off the table, which I super commend you with because it's can be pretty raw and brutal, or but also just showing the fact that person A is no different to you.
Yeah,
you know, and I think
they're probably better
to know. No, I disagree. The same. Yeah. You know, it just really comes down to mindset and actually even the belief or the lack of fear. They both go hand in hand. So thanks for sharing and being super open. And I know a lot of people grow from it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And if anyone wants to find you, where do they find you?
So I knew this question was going to come up. I don't have an answer right now.
Got a website though?
Yeah, digitalsimple.co.nz.
Yeah.
We didn't really talk a lot about work though. So basically what will happen over the next wee bit is there's a personal brand in the works that will be released. I don't know what it's going to be under. I don't know anything like that. I have a personal Instagram. It's probably not really worth following if you want anything to do with business or anything like that. I'd jump onto the Digital Simple Instagram because there'll be some cross-posting between them. I also really like that profile and it gives you a good insight into my team. And then that will give you a path through to what I'm going to be putting out, which is more along the lines of what we spoke about from there. I just don't know yet what that's going to look like.
I would say LinkedIn is a good place to find you because you're doing some great posts on LinkedIn.
That's 100% the place you should find me is LinkedIn. That's where I'm most open. That's where I'm most like this. I just wrote a post on the plane up this morning that will be fucking cool tomorrow. That's where I get that. That's the start of that personal brand, and then that will give paths off to everything else. So my name's James Wallace. Digital Simple is the business I own. There's a few James Wallaces, so there might be a bit of wafting to find me.
You should come up as one though, number one.
One day. I've got a few more posts before then.
Got to spend some money on those Google AdWords, eh?
No, but hey, thank you guys. I've really appreciated it, and all of the podcasts that I've done, and I've been really lucky to be able to do a few of them. They've all been business. How do I market? How do I find customers? How do I do this shit? It's actually quite fun to sit and just talk about the story and my thoughts on things and stuff like that. I got a lot of shit bouncing around up in here, so it's been cool to express some of it.
Welcome anytime.
We find like just the best way to grow people is actually realize that, hey, look, your story is no different, and there's got common. Like, everybody seems to think that everybody in business has a silver spoon, but it's not the case. It's just their mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How hard can you get kicked in the head? That's my current mindset.
It's like Rocky.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Fucking legend. Let's go for a piss.
Awesome.